Hey, there we go.
Why? Oh, it's recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't make weird noises.
Well, no, I feel like that's actually part of what we do.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's... so we should probably mention the Hemingway drink that ended up just like Hemingway all over the floor.
Yeah. So at Old Crown, which is the cafe that we go to, they have these... Oh, they have a bunch of cocktails, and they have one called the Hemingway. And we wanted to get them because it sounded appropriate for what we were doing, which was writing. And they come in a beautiful little conical martini glass. And after you've already been drinking, it's really, really, really easy to accidentally knock them over. And it totally wasn't me. It was definitely him, not me. I wasn't too drunk.
That's somehow my fault?
Yep.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But it ended up all over the floor, just like Hemingway. So, you know, it comes around.
It does. It does.
So why don't you explain what you're doing right now?
All right, so we just shot a video series that's going to hopefully be uploaded in one piece. That is the writer conceptions, like misconceptions versus the reality of what the situation is. And that's a daunting task on YouTube, trying to figure out what else goes into this.
YouTube can handle 14-year-olds venting about One Direction breaking up. I'm sure it can handle these videos. We've got a lot of editing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. So this is what we do on Thursdays. Writer Nerds Unite. And
I don't have a drink.
Are you out of booze? Oh. We usually sit down and hang out and, be nerds together about writing and things of that nature. And I gotta admit, I look forward to Thursdays for, if nothing else, just hanging out and talking geek stuff.
Yeah, definitely. The place that we do it to, it's nice, laid back and relaxed. Right now, we're not there. This is not a cafe.
No, this is an apartment where people live and do living stuff. Oh my God, we're gonna have to go through these and figure out which ones are what.
Yeah, order them around.
Oh my God.
You can kind of guess-ish. They definitely don't all start the same way.
No, they do not.
Definitely the guy in the hard hat goes in this video.
Yeah, from my previous work experiences when the work time barbecue. That was an unfortunate day.
I don't know. That sounds like it was fun.
I mean,
a subcontractor, so you didn't have to pay for it.
No, fuck no, and even if it was, but all right. So here's what I think we're gonna have to go through this and order them all, figure out which ones go in what order. So why don't we do?
Okay.
Why don't we do this and then we'll figure all that out.
So what we're gonna do is he is gonna answer some questions about his awesome two series.
Thank you.
Uncollared series and the Meager Beginnings. So far, he has 4 out on Amazon. You can purchase them for a meager $3, not even $3 each. And after you buy a certain amount of ebooks, by the way, they give you a $10 credit. So it's like you get it for free.
Actually, what's funny about that too is if you have an Amazon Prime account,
yeah,
you get them for free.
Yeah, free Amazon Prime plus all the random streaming stuff you can get on there too. So. Yeah, it's cheaper than Netflix, actually, especially if you're a student.
And exercise your brain.
Yeah, brain stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start with some questions related to the series. Some of them will be my own personal questions. I've read them all. Some are some questions from his readers. Let's start. I'm just going to start on this sheet. They're a little out of order.
So, real quick. Before we jump into it, I got 1,000,001 questions, pretty much from the word go. So we tried to write down a bunch of them, as they came up. A lot of other ones, if We don't have them on the sheet. If a question gets asked that kind of pertains to something you asked, I'm going to try and give you the credit of, hey, this person asked this thing, they wanted to know blah, 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 such and such. Bear with me, still new at all this.
Okay, so let's start with this. This, it's not phrased as a question, it just says, Freedom's Promise. Why don't you give a little bit of background on that? It's mentioned in the Meager Beginnings series.
Absolutely. I like universes that are kind of steeped in their own antiquity, kind of have their own history, their own lore. It's one of the things that kind of drew me to like Martin's writing, to Tolkien's writing, that sort of stuff. People who have like these series that have sort of their own universe to them. Freedom's Promise was, as a writer, it was definitely one of my building blocks for my own universe. Within the universe of Aetheriad, it is sort of the catalyst for a lot of things and how the rest of the story plays out. It's where Mike Emerson, formerly Master Sergeant Mike Emerson, meets up with Holden Wingate, Leona Tavala, Robley, Stenson, Sev, those guys, and kind of falls in love with them. Like, as the kids he says he's never had. It was sort of a war between ideologies. These guys believe that, the freedoms that they experience on the planet, this sort of, very, like, the libertarian paradise that they lived on wasn't somehow free enough. Okay. So they went out of their way to kind of instill their own sense of justice after finding a leftover piece of technology from a group of a primordial race that inhabited the stars before them.
Great, awesome. All right, is that supposed to be some kind of political commentary, or?
Yes and no. So somebody asked Hemingway, Faulkner, Twain, all those guys a while ago if like the symbolism in their works was intentional, was it contrived, was it something that they intended for, or was it something that just sort of happened as a byproduct of the work? And I'd like to say, kind of in the same vein as like Hemingway and Twain kind of responded to that while yes, these things are kind of things that I think about, they're not intentionally included in the fiction as some sort of like ham-fisted way of trying to force my politics across, or force somebody else's politics across. It's just I see things and I'm like, well, wouldn't it be cool if I took this to its logical conclusion, or if I took it to what I would consider a logical conclusion. Not everybody's logic is going to line up exactly. So it's less of a socio-political commentary and more of my ideas on what would happen if this was the case on a planet-wide scale, and if these are the external factors.
Okay. Slightly related question, not to the politics question. There's a question about Heaven's Fire, which is also talked about with Freedom's Promise. We get these images from, what character was it? Was it Holden imagining them when he was unconscious?
Yeah, Holden touches on them. I know that Emerson kind of gives a little bit more of an expository sort of diatribe about what happened and a little bit of that sort of stuff, and something that we're going to get into in the next piece. So I'm kind of comfortable talking about this. That was the holdover from the primordials, that sort of stuff. This race that came before. Heaven's Fire was sort of the colloquial name for what happened. Emerson, definitely says all of a sudden the cities, 80 or 90% of the cities that these people lived in, and 80 or 90% of the adult population just gone. And it's because the ATF, the Agents of True Freedom, found this weapon. They found a way to activate it, to use it. And they did so to this horrific extent. As such, when they targeted the cities, because of the way Freedom's Promise worked, and the way that the structure of the planet is set up. You know, when you're young, you're sent away to an academy. You learn military doctrine and this and that and the other thing, and how to be a soldier, and how to kind of, you know, find your way, but in a very military sense. So they targeted these major cities that, you know, in the middle of the school year, all of their kids were away at an academy. So, you know, the only kids that were, you know, that were killed were the kids that weren't at an academy for some reason.
Yeah.
And the only people who weren't killed were people who were at academies. So occasionally there'd be like some teachers and stuff like that kind of left behind as a, you know, like a last vestige of adulthood.
Yeah.
But most of the people who were...
I'm trying to get a better shot here because you're turning away from me a lot from this.
Oh,
not to interrupt you.
No, by all means. So you know, the kids were left over because they who were away at these academies, who were kind of removed from the major cities, and the adults are much fewer and further between because less teachers than there are students.
But they turn out to be hard asses anyway.
I mean, you know, that's kind of the, you know, Freedom's Promise. I know Mike Emerson makes a reference to the fact that they were trained from, you know, a very early age to be the best and the brightest of the best and the brightest. So that's a thing that he kind of shows us, is that these people are military minded from an early age.
Yeah, that's some stuff that's not even really hinted, like the primordial stuff isn't really even hinted at yet in this.
Yeah.
But what about something that is hinted about? The prisoner from Alwyn's powers.
Okay.
What kind of freaky stuff is she doing?
That's
She's awesome. I like her a lot. Yeah.
Well, actually, she's the first perspective in the third piece. I can give you her name. Her name is Delilah. She is a psyker. Obviously, she has some sort of telekinetic ability. Something happened to Delilah. Delilah's a hard ass, but something happened to Delilah prior to meeting Holden and Sev and Emerson, who she lovingly refers to in the third piece as Brute. But something happened to her, and she wasn't on her A game when she met them, because chances are, if she was, then, well, Holden, Sev, and possibly Emerson, Leona, Robley, and Stenson would not be with us anymore.
Well.
So, to answer the powers question, she's quite powerful indeed.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Alwyn and the folks we're going to meet in the next piece?
We actually meet two of my favorite characters. Not necessarily meet them. We get to hear from Delilah herself. She is the first sort of POV character in the next piece. You know, third-person narratives being what it is. Mm-hmm. She is who we learn about, like, at the start of the next piece, and what, you know, what her struggle was leading up to this, and why she was, you know, so beat up, and why her armor that, you know, Holden is so reverent of, this medium scale powered armor, is so beat up. So we learned a little bit about that. And then Samuel Cornelius Balleron, the captain of the TSS, the Tecton spaceship, the Elysian. We actually get to meet him and kind of learn a little bit more about Tecton's mission on Alwyn and what it entails, and maybe learn some stuff that maybe even Mike Emerson, the consummate professional Mike Emerson, doesn't know. Awesome. So.
Okay, let's talk. Wait. Here's a question from Cynthia T.
Okay, Mama T.
She wants to know: is Holden okay?
I will say this: Holden. So, first POV character in Meager Beatings Part 3 is Delilah. The second POV character in Meager Beatings Part 3 is Holden Wingate. So. Good. I guess we can consider that he's alright.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Is this also from her? Yeah.
Yes.
So, when you come up with ideas for characters, do you base them off of real people, or do you combine people together?
My characters are kind of based on, they're based very deeply in an aspect of someone that I know, specifically in like an aspect of that particular person. So like, let's say I know someone who is incredibly prideful. It's, if I write a prideful character, it's, or if I write a character based on that, it is their display of pridefulness, not just pridefulness in general, not the character type of pridefulness, but their displays of pridefulness that make it into this character. So yes, my characters are absolutely based on real people, but sometimes it's a pared down version of that person, so that I can, hey, in this scenario, based on this emotion that I know of this person, then yes, it's based on them.
All right. There's a lot of questions about inspiration. I'm sure that's a very common question for you.
Yes.
Here's just the list of questions here, from Jody, Chad T, Cynthia T, Nate C, all about where do you get your inspiration, where do you get your ideas for characters? We already kind of went over that. What's your writing process? How does this all come from up in the weird space in your mind to the page?
It's a lot of it is. Alwyn started out as a dream. Totally honest. I had a dream.
So it's like Twilight.
Oh God. So Alwyn started out as a dream, and I had this dream about these like this spacefaring, race of humans came into contact with these 4-armed tiger gorilla badass creatures called the Veltok.
They mentioned he mentions those in the first Alwyn.
Yeah, and the Veltok are no joke, man. Like they're mentioned pretty heavily in part 3 as well.
Awesome.
We actually hear one speak for the first time in part 3. The Veltok are no joke. So I had this dream about them. And at the time, I was watching a lot of Generation Kill, if you know what that is.
I don't.
It's an HBO series. Really, really good. I'm a huge fan. Alexander Skarsgård, if you watch True Blood or any of that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's enough to sell most people on the idea. And it was about the first recon Marines in Iraq. So, cool story. Loved it to death. And it was really cool because it was this nebulous tale focused around just this group of dudes and what they did in a combat zone and this and that and the other thing, and how, the violence of motion as opposed to just the violence of violence was a thing that they capitalized on and all that sort of stuff. So, had this dream, was watching a lot of that. The two kind of combined into this idea that I'd been kind of kicking around for a while that fit into the universe of Aetheriad. And it sort of went from there. Like, I started putting words on a page and I was like, this.
So you just said the universe of Aetheriad. It's not a word that you've used actually in the text of your stories so far.
Absolutely. It is in title and description alone. The universe will inevitably be displayed to be intrinsically tied together. Both Uncollared and Meager Beginnings will at some point in time be revealed in some form or fashion to be tied together to tell an overarching tale.
Okay, so who wins in a fight, Eben or Emerson?
Is Emerson armed?
No, let's...
Fist fight?
No,
Fist fight like
Emerson
cowards?
will have... Yeah, he has his weapons because he's not a psyker and Eben is.
Yeah.
So who wins?
It's kind of like who wins Batman or Superman. If Emerson knows that Evan's coming, Emerson.
Okay.
The guy is unequivocally hard. But if it's just these two are dropped in the same city and they know that somebody's out to get them, Eben.
Okay. Speaking of Eben, there's a question here about Eben's previous partner.
Eben's previous partner is a guy named Rusty. Rusty was a good guy. He was Norm in the series of the Uncollared saga leading up to the first Uncollared book. Rusty's a good guy. Phenomenal human being, a super Norm, not necessarily apologist, but a super Norm good guy. Like, he understood that, these supers are just different from us. Not in a bad way. They're just different, but they're still people. They are differently abled people, much in the same way that, somebody in a wheelchair is still a person. Like, they're not different. They're just differently abled than you and I are. Unfortunately, Rusty met his demise at the hands of some rather unfortunate circumstances by a couple of ghosts.
Okay, that's also on the list. I want to hear more about these ghosts. I'm sure your other readers want to hear about them.
Okay. The ghosts are sort of my splinter cell, my sleepers, if you will. They are people who, are supers usually, who were either born and unregistered or found a way to slip the collars. In the universe of Aetheriad, the Uncollared saga, the collar is, obviously a big part of it, Uncollared being the name of it. They're either the lucky ones that survived an uncollaring, or they, were born and unregistered and, never got one put on.
They don't seem, they seem organized, but they don't seem super skilled at what they're doing necessarily.
I feel like that's the kind of a comparison between when high school teams play football against one another. One high school team is usually better than the others, but if a high school team plays an NFL team, that high school team doesn't look nearly as good anymore.
Okay.
Against their contemporaries, they're amazing. Against someone that is better equipped, outfitted, and practiced than they are, of course they don't seem as well organized. You're kind of they're running afoul of these people who have all the money in the world, all the technology in the world, and kind of the say so on what does and doesn't go. So they're running into the governments of the world,
like people like McNamara.
McNamara is
McNamara. I don't know how to pronounce these names.
No, that's
so
fine. That's fine. That's fine. McNamara is an interesting cat, man. He's we learn a little bit more about him in the next piece of Uncollared Switch. We learn a little bit more about him and kind of what drives him to be who he is and do what he does. So he's an interesting character. He's fun, actually, in a lot of ways.
Interesting. He doesn't seem like the kind of character that I'm gonna like, because I'm already rooting for,
Evan and Miranda Evans and Natalie. And all that. Yeah. You won't. I write the guy, and I understand where he's coming from, and I understand why he does the stuff he does, and it's easy to see him when you know his motivations and when you know what he's doing, what the reasons are behind what he's doing.
Are we gonna love to hate him like Prince Charming?
Yeah, kind of. He's fun to hate in a lot of ways because he's the dark part of who we are. He's the they're different from me and fuck them kind of.
Well, and then there's this whole thing about the dark days, which we haven't seen much of. We don't really know what's going on. And
that's actually where a lot of McNamara's tale is kind of forged. Is in the dark days, is pre-war and war. McNamara has been through the ringer in a lot of ways. Dude has seen some things that make your toes curl and you blow your hair back. So, like I said, he's fun to write because he's my outlet for a lot of that hatred that we try and keep bottled down, and no, everybody deserves a fair shake and all this sort of stuff. Well, McNamara is the extension of me that gets to no, I know it's right and I'm gonna do it at all costs.
The gut reaction guy.
Oh yeah.
So, staying on the subject of Uncollared, and staying on the subject of people I hope we get to see more of, Natalie and the S-Corps?
Yes. Uncollared Switch tells the story of what happened to Natalie Busco post Aspen. And it picks up, I think it's 3 to 6 months after the Fire in the Orphanage series, or the Fire in the Orphanage story. Eben makes a return, like at least a small cameo. We'll learn a little bit more about McNamara. One of the other characters from Fire in the Orphanage, Marcus, actually kind of makes a pretty significant appearance in the story. So, yes, Natalie...
Marcus is the big kid, right?
Yeah, the HSP, Homo Superioris Physicalibus. He is, for all intents and purposes, Superman.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the HSPs and the HSKs and what's the difference between them, and the difference in their collars is what I'm interested in the most.
Okay. If you want to bring down an elephant, you don't shoot it with the same thing you'd shoot it with a rabbit. You'd shoot a rabbit with, I should say. You don't, shoot an elephant with a bunch of 22s and wonder why he's not going down. You bring an elephant gun, because if you don't, you're probably going to die. So, HSKs, HSDs, the Homo Superioris Kinesis and the Homo Superioris Divinus, are psychers. Their powers are of the mind, of manipulation of molecules that you and I cannot even perceive. As such, their powers all derive from their ability to interact with the universe metaphysically, right?
Okay. In the ether.
Yeah, in the Aether, which is, again, talked about in like the Uncollared Fire in the Orphanage, is where it's definitely kind of explained a little bit better. So everything happens sort of in the Aether there. Eben talks about how he manipulates it, like personally, kind of how it relates to him and how he sees it happen. Natalie describes it as, or Miranda describes it in the first piece, the Miranda Evans piece, almost as like a preternatural thing. Like it's just second nature to her because she's so powerful. Whereas Eben kind of has a better grasp on explaining it to norms. So we get a little bit more of a reveal from him as to how it actually works. But Eben is still intrinsically, as far as like, what he's physically capable of, not mentally capable of, a human.
Yeah.
Whereas the HSPs, that is not at all the case. In Switch, we kind of get into it a little bit, but in the next piece that I'm working on, Switch is almost done as we speak, actually, so
awesome.
Fingers crossed. The next piece is called 4 Minutes to Change Everything.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
Not even a little bit. But the 4 Minutes to Change Everything, we actually focus on specifically an HSP, and we learn what they're capable of, especially this HSP, who is very, very powerful at what he does. The HSP is Physicalitas, are the physical powerhouses. These are the guys that, can punch through, 2 feet of concrete, can, bend I-beams, can, throw cars at people. Bullets bounce off their skin. They're incredibly hard. They're faster. They're stronger. In a lot of cases, they're smarter because everything physical about them is just more robust. Is just more preternaturally hard.
So those pistols that we see, the one that kills Lydia, the one that Holden gets shot with at one point. Doesn't he get shot with the
No,
like
Holden
lightning...
Holden gets blown up with a plasma grenade.
Okay.
Eben gets shot with
I meant Eben, not Holden.
No, it's all good.
I'm trying to stay in uncollared here.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Again, they will eventually somehow work their way together. Technically, Holden could be shot with a TK at some point in time. The Titan Killer pistols, while effective at dropping low-level HSPs, you probably want to go with something a little harder for, say, Marcus.
Okay.
We're going to meet a character here soon, Johnny Baltimore, orphan in Baltimore. So, John Doe, Johnny, Baltimore, because all orphans, it's kind of touched on in the Fire in the Orphanage piece. Mm-hmm. Their last name is wherever they're from.
Is he an orphan from the orphanage that we see there?
He is from an orphanage in New Baltimore. He is not from the Lafayette House.
Okay.
But he knows some people from Lafayette House, so.
I have another question. I've gone through basically everything on this list. So if you had questions that you want answered, tweet him at Hollingswords or shoot him up on his Facebook. Find his home, knock on his door, whatever you want to do.
I'm usually available. That is an accurate statement.
Definitely not busy ever writing.
No, I mean, it's not like that's what I do.
No. So my question is, oh crap, where was I? In your little excerpt, like your little, back of the book blurb for the Allowan piece, you mentioned angels.
Yes.
We have not seen any angels so far. I am disappointed, sir.
Meager Beginnings Part 3. Another Day on Allowan Part 3. It will satisfy that urge.
Woo! And Tiger Gorillas, which is also mentioned in the blurb too, so
and,
great.
And the Veltaki, yeah.
Awesome. Gosh, my questions are up. Do you want to say anything else about your pieces? When we can expect the next one?
The next one, I've been so inundated with like new ideas and things to kind of fit into the universe and stuff like that. Aetheriad is kind of my like a novelist's approach to comic books because I can't draw to save my life, but I love big, universe spanning, multi-dimensional spanning, timelines and stuff like that. Like X-Men was once described to me as an interdimensional cosmic soap opera.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I like that. I dig that. I love those huge, epic, sprawling things. And one of the questions I was asked by Nate C. Was, what is the meaning of Aetheriad? So to kind of help explain, to answer that question, I'll pose another one and then answer that. Aetheri, right, is a Greek word that means like the small connections between everything.
I did not know that.
And I have always been kind of like fascinated with the little things that connect everything else, like the little strings that connect this thing over here to this thing over here. And Iad is actually like a Greek suffix meaning like song of, story of, poem of.
Huh. So
this is sort of my love letter to the guys that, wish Song of Shannara, the Song of Ice and Fire, the poem, the Iliad, the Aeneid, that sort of stuff. This is my tale of the little things that connect everything, and how they're super important and trivial all at the same time. So this will eventually all work itself out to somewhere where you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense why this happened here and why this happened here. So if people have read if people have read to this point so far, I know you have. I know several of the people who've submitted questions have. Awesome. Like, that means the world to me. Like, I was not prepared for this at all. But stay tuned. It's only going to get better. Well, I mean, better from from what I think is cool.
I've heard a lot about his stories from stuff that he hasn't published yet, that's not ready to be published yet, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I know spoilers, and I still want to read. So yeah, I get really excited and kind of fangirl out on this stuff. That and some of his side projects.
And that's the other thing I was going to talk about. Fey Retail, which is kind of the biggest of the side projects right now. Does not take place in Aetheriad, but it is sort of my love letter to classic, which is like classic, but with a TH instead. I'm thuffering fuckatash. My love letter to classic mythology, like the Grimm Brothers fairy tales, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully, within the next 2 months, I'll have a small novella ready for that. And
I am extremely, extremely, extremely excited for that because I have not gotten my fill on Once Upon a Time, or rereading or rewatching Little Mermaid 100 times.
Yeah, and this is this.
It's a little different.
This is the R-rated version of those things.
It's the better version of these things.
People die in this motherfucker. Like, that's all I'm saying.
People say motherfucker in this motherfucker.
People say motherfucker because I have Tourette's, so I'm going to say a few motherfuckers. My characters are going to say a few motherfuckers, and if that offends you, I am terribly sorry. You don't have to read my books. But if that doesn't offend you, and you enjoy fairy tales with motherfucker artistically woven in through the script. I'm your dude.
Yes. I can't wait. 100%.
Excellent. And that's
Woo!
what's up. So, this is like a thing. Like we do this every Thursday. That's the tale of two nerds, right? That get together and talk about nerdy fictional stuff. Jess is also a writer.
Yeah, I'm a writer too. I mean, we're getting a little long in length. I can always talk about my stuff later. We answered a bunch of your questions. 35 minutes of
this many bucks.
Okay, I mean, we can keep talking.
I was gonna say people can read, people can listen, they can watch. This is all just talking. So if they want to put this on as background noise, that's fine.
Yeah, it's like a podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Speaking of which, I'm actually another thing, looking at doing an audiobook for the pieces I have out now and for the pieces coming up. But instead of doing them as like a regular audiobook, like just one person reads and does all the voices and inflections and sound effects and stuff like that, I'm actually looking at doing this more like a radio play.
Okay.
One of my best friends growing up, a little older than me, is kind of losing his eyesight now. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of the impetus behind doing something like that.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Radio. Some of the best stories that I've grown up loving. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
hilarious radio play.
Yeah. So, and like the podcast stories, like, the guys that play D&D on a podcast, and that's their big thing. I mean, not to take anything away from them. Some of the stuff they do is hilarious, but, mm-hmm. if that's a thing that can make it, then, hopefully people will enjoy this, that's new source of fiction and think that's cool.
Yeah. But, yeah, I write, too. We get together, we talk about our stuff.
It's really good.
I write a lot of silly fantasy. I don't have anything as sprawling as Jack does, but I mean, I dabble. I have a story right now that I'm writing called Time Bob. It's about
oh my god, it's the greatest story in the history of the world.
Fights and alien abductions.
And a time-traveling interdimensional girlfriend.
Yes, who I like her character a lot. So it centers around a guy named Rob, who wakes up not remembering what he did the night before, and he discovers something strange on his body, a big old scar right down his chest, but decides to go into work anyway because that's what you do as a dedicated pizza delivery boy.
That's a samurai pizza guy. Yeah, that's right.
Well, he doesn't work for the samurais.
That's right.
Bogan, who is his Australian pizza guru.
That's right, yeah.
Who runs Luca Russo's Pizza Emporium. Because
thanks for calling Luca Russo's Pizza Emporium.
He is against the, what is the name? The Corleone's Pizza Palace. They're run by samurai.
Run by Shenlong, the samurai.
So imagine an Australian pizza place, Japanese pizza place, gang fights on the road, Grand Theft Auto, Fast and Furious style.
That's kind of like that's sort of one of the other side projects, like Dog Cop.
Dog Cop.
It's just one of those things that I love that. Like the dream logic, like this doesn't have to make sense. Yeah. It's just here for the over the top factor, and like that's kind of what I love about Time Bob. Like just hearing about it, like it's definitely right up my alley as far as things that are just like over the top, kind of insane and fun.
It also
fun for the sake of fun.
Gives me an excuse to order a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can ask the driver when he gets there, did you have to fight anybody on your way here? Because if you did, what weapons would you use?
The pizza people already think that I'm high as fuck every time I order pizza. Because I never know what I'm going to order when I call them. Like, I'm going to have a pineapple and sausage. What are those green things? Green peppers. Yeah, green peppers. They think that I am high all the time.
Oh yeah.
I never know what I want to eat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's probably the best part about ordering pizza is that you want pizza, but the toppings, it's kind of like Christmas. You're like, oh my god, toppings.
Yeah. I had 50% off a Pizza Hut order last time I ordered pizza, and I went batshit crazy.
Yeah, why wouldn't
I
you?
ordered pasta and breadsticks.
It's like
and
getting
pizza.
a free spinning fucking Wheel of Fortune. You take the motherfucker and you
Yeah.
accept what you get. You know.
The funny thing, it was a coupon that I had. It was via a wheel.
Oh.
Literally via a wheel. It was like 20% off, 30% off, 50% off. Yes, hallelujah, 50% off. It lasted me 2 days.
I mean, I can't. No one could fault you for such things.
Mm-mm.
There's glory unrelenting.
Yeah. If I didn't have a real job, I would be really, really fat. Pizza and internet all day. Maybe some writing.
Yep. And donuts.
Donuts. You have to actually go out and get donuts, though.
I know. What waiter on the way actually stops at Dunkin' Donuts?
Really?
Yeah. This is why I'm fat.
Yep. But, I mean, apart from Time Bob and I have another story I still don't have a good title for that I've been working on really, that I hope I will finish editing and actually be able to publish like he has.
NaNoWriMo piece?
Yes, I wrote it for National Novel Writing Month. I've really, really made edits to it, but it's a cheesy fantasy, really like supposed to play on all the cliches.
It's not cheesy. What is that? What is the thing you sent me? The fantasy novelist test or whatever.
Yeah.
The fantasy novelist exam.
Yes, on Brinkworks.com.
By David J. Parker. It passes what 90% of the year.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
Nothing happen in the first 50 pages? That you pass that one. Is your main character a young farmhand with mysterious parentage? No. Is your main character the heir to the throne and doesn't know it? No.
Time Bob doesn't pass that one. Number 8. Does your novel contain a character whose sole purpose is to show up at random plot points and dispense information? That's the time-traveling girlfriend.
Yeah, but I feel like at that point in time, like, if she's a time-traveling girlfriend, you can't help but to show up at random points, and you're going to dispense information.
But she dispenses information that's not pertinent anymore.
See? And that's...
Yeah.
So, technically, you get away with that when you're not... It's not like this. Number 8 should read, does your novel contain a character whose sole purpose is to show up at random points in time and dispense pertinent information?
How about... Oh, man. Maybe I do pass a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to pass. There's one that says something about half creatures. I have half creatures. I have a half orc with a sword.
And that's I feel like if done correctly, these are just guidelines, right? It's like what was it, the Pirates Code? Yeah. Not rules, more guidelines.
Yeah. But I tried to play in tropes for that one. Maybe I failed. I failed on my tropes.
It just depends on the trope. I think I think you're playing on tropes there that not only are they tropes, but they're tropes in spite of themselves, and I think that's half the fun.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's, I think one of the best parts about writing is being able to write original, creative things that no one's ever done before.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, even better, taking the things like that have been done so many times and doing them in a completely different way, like fairy tale.
Yeah, oh yeah, things that have been done to death, and then taking them and kind of spinning them on their ear and being like, no, this is what I have to contribute to this.
It's not kicking a dead horse, it's resurrecting it with dark magic and making it funny again.
Exactly. It's I wouldn't even say it's resurrecting, it's animating the skeleton.
Putting new skin on it. Yeah, pig skin totally works for a horse, right?
Yeah. They're supposed to be clad in wood? No? Damn.
Feathers?
Yeah, gambled and lost.
People say horse feathers all the time.
Yeah. How the fuck was I supposed to know the shit wasn't literal?
Yeah.
Alright, guys. Well, hopefully you've watched this far. I hope you enjoy. I am John Hollingsworth, a.k.a. Jack.
I'm Jessica Geyer, a.k.a. Jessica Geyer.
Accurate. You can follow me on Twitter at Hollingswords.
And at Jawska, Jawska.
We're both on Facebook and happily awaiting to answer your questions. If you want to post them in a little doobly-doo down below in the comments section or whatever, we will, in a direction, one of them.
Just make stuff pop up everywhere.
I don't know how to do pop-up ads yet.
We'll figure it out.
We'll be happy to get to those. Hopefully next Thursday or the Thursday after, we will get to more of these.
Yes.
We have been the Writer Nerds.
Thank you.
Deuces, y'all.